I don't know if you ever told me, but why did you decide to start doing fecal transplants?
So it's interesting because I didn't actually come up with an idea. It was actually a pet parent who was
Oh, okay.
very well researched. So there was a German Shepherd that kept having diarrhea. And back then I had drugs. So
Right.
I was just like, here's some metronidazole, and would go away for a week and then would come back, be like, diarrhea's back. Cause like, here's more metronidazole.
There we go.
And I think I dabbled in some probiotics, which didn't work well. And honestly, for a pet with chronic diarrhea, I didn't have a lot of options. But a big dog, like a German Shepherd, having diarrhea in your house every day is not something people could live with.
And that's a lot of food.
So, unfortunately, I wasn't at a place in my career where I was very knowledgeable about other options. So, she looked it up and she came to me and she said, hey, in humans, they are doing this thing called fecal transplant. And I was like, what is this crazy concept? But then I looked into it, and back then there was company Animal Biome was making the transplant powder, and I looked into it. I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like it would be harmful,
Mhm.
and she really wanted to do it, so she pushed me to do it. I'm like, okay, let's try.
Wow.
And after it was after a session, it worked right away, and I was like, oh my god, what the hell? What is this craziness? And so we did that. And we actually repeated. I remember we actually did only 2 sessions. This is back then we transplant under anesthesia was how we were taught. And I did one more. And that dog that was having chronic diarrhea never had diarrhea again.
Damn.
So that's how I started.
That's cool.
And that's why nowadays when people come to me with ideas, even when it's crazy, I am now never at a place to be like, you're crazy. I am always curious to see, oh, okay, send me some information. Let me look into it. Because honestly, I wouldn't be here if that client didn't push me to do it.
So she's the reason you kind of got started into,
The fecal transplant. Yeah.
wow.
Mm.
So how many sessions did it take for you to do on that German Shepherd before
Not
you
German
finished?
Shepherds too,
Only two.
but we did it. We had to do it under anesthesia.
You guys were, if I remember correctly, Maria said that you guys were putting in like huge amounts of fecal
The
transplants.
beginning. This was even before I came here. This was at my conventional hospital that I started doing my first fecal transplant there.
What did they think?
Oh, they thought I was crazy, but since we had the owner's blessing, they were
You're willing to.
let me try.
Oh,
I was
nice.
like, I just need to run anesthesia
That's
and
so
put
cool.
this thing up this dog's butt. They're like, what are you? Hey,
And the
listen,
owner's
mom.
like,
I'm like, mom wanted to do it. We're good. Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
But back then, yeah, when I started here, that we didn't put them fully under anesthesia, we just sedated them. But we would put in huge volume and they would literally poop out most of it. And that's how we got to slowly figuring out. I was like, okay, that's too much. Let's do half the amount. Let's do quarter amount. Let's do eighth amount. And I'm like, do we really need sedation? And that was actually the part where people really didn't like. I found that most people, most pet parents are okay with the fecal transplant idea. They really didn't want to sedate their pet. So I started then trying to figure out a way, okay, how can we do this in a way that it's actually not an uncomfortable procedure as now. It's just that back then the protocol was like, okay, after you put the material in, you're supposed to rotate them. So you put them on one side for 10 minutes and then the other side for 10 minutes. And then they like are laying kind of like straight down for 10 minutes. So it's a half an hour process.
Oh my God.
Like now it takes us like 2 minutes and it still works. But that's how I figured out like through a lot of trial and error of what works well. Now we don't have to sedate and it takes 2 minutes and they're comfortable. But yeah, it used to be a big mess.
It's insane. What? I mean,
and we couldn't figure out the syringes and it was, and then things will, if you think the backwash is bad with the amount that we're using, think about when we had like 8 times as much material and it back backflows. It was not, we had to take patients outside and close them off. It was bad. But don't worry, now we figured it out. So for those of you that are listening,
We're pros now.
We've got it figured out.
That's funny.
I actually trademarked the protocol.
You did?
It's called Balance Bio. It's not out in the world. So this is your first time hearing about it. We did trademark.
That's cool.
Our protocol now.
So where did you get the original protocol from? Was it from Animal Biome or was it from like human trials?
The original protocol were from other doctors that were doing it.
Pets or
pets?
Oh, okay.
In humans, what's interesting is I think very originally they actually did some surgical fecal transplant. So they would go in surgically, open up the intestine and deposit the poop into the small intestine.
No thanks.
I don't think they do that anymore. I think they figure out now you don't have to get it into the small intestine for it to work. Because if you think about it, when we transplant, we can't transplant into the small intestine. It's only in that first part of the colon that you can reach. But we now know, because we do a whole bunch of before and after testing, that we know it works. So you don't have to be as invasive as they used to be. And it's a lot of figuring out. Yeah.
That's insane. I never would have. See, if I had started working here at that time, that would have been really hard to wrap my head around.
I will tell you, every part of the journey, I feel that maybe in another year or 2 or 3, 0 or 5, we will probably look back on this conversation, what we're doing now, and say, oh my God, back then, remember how we used to do things that way? That was so stupid. And now we have such better ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it might, but I don't think so, man. I think we've got the fecal transplant thing down.
I think the only future, not the only future, one of the futures I could see that could improve the fecal transplant is that we've got to be able to then probably start selecting for certain colonies. Okay, I'm really going to nerd out because I'm really excited about this. So you open a can of worms.
That's fine.
What I really think, because right now with the fecal transplant, we really just have our donor material, and they are really good donor material, but it is sort of a one size fits all. We use the same material kind of for everybody. And I think there is a world where we can start figuring out for different disease states and maybe their individual, whether it's DNA mutations or something, that you find the right bacteria that can go in and help cure that disease. But there's some work about this. If you just stay with me, I see your eyes. I see your eyes, because they're definitely a feature. And this is why I get really excited about microbiome therapy, is that I think just by transplanting, to be honest, transplanting poop, which is so easy to do. And maybe now we can select donors, or maybe they can start isolating different populations that actually go in and repair certain areas. There's got to be a way to figure out, wow, these bacteria really work closely to help with this part of the immune system. So if that part is the part that's breaking down, then we got to transplant the right ones. So I think that's the next frontier, is to figure out how to do that. And then, so instead of reaching for the general donor population, we would start to have different poop material, and then you can make your own concoctions, like what we do with mushrooms. I'll be like, you need 5 grams of this plus 3 grams of that, and
mix it all up.
And transplant it like magic.
Okay.
Where I see this going. This is gonna be so cool. We can have a poop bank. It's different.
No, thank you.
You say that now.
Hey, I mean, I'm on board.
Here's our poop bank.
We got
different stuff.
Oneg. We got AB. I mean, I guess the only way I can wrap my brain around that is the acupuncture channels and meridians. Like we put in fecal. The fecal is the acupuncture needle. And whatever good or bad bacteria is in there is going to stimulate a chain response.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That relates
That's
to
exactly
that
it.
organ. Or that's insane.
No,
That'd be
the
cool.
really cool thing about we think we're in control of our body. We're not, because this whole microbiome community is trillions of live organisms living inside of each one of us. And they basically control how we function. They control the immune system. They control our brain. They control how we process emotions, like things we say and feel and do is controlled by our microbiome sending these little signals. So you could literally reprogram somebody by changing their microbiome.
You can start with my dog.
What's wrong with your dog?
Everything. My dog.
Who says that about their dog?
I mean, she's got an attitude.
They need to transplant some like nice
good vibes
and be like, these are the microbiome that makes her like other dogs.
Yes, exactly. She doesn't like other dogs.
If you find a donor of a dog and just go to somebody at a dog park and find a golden retriever and say,
Chloe's
can I take your poop?
Chloe, I feel like Chloe's the nicest dog to humans and to pets.
Chloe has microbiome that's not the best.
That's true. I think my dog has pretty good microbiome. I need to test it.
Yeah. You can test it.
But yeah, she needs, you can test it on her.
We tested Mira's. Mira also is a pretty nice dog.
Mira?
Yeah. Because Mira's a boxer, so who lives with another boxer, Xander, and I was hoping that I can use Mira's poop to transplant for Xander. We'll see.
So is that the blender part?
Yeah, that's it. The next part that I'm trying to introduce to my team is because so far we've only done fecal transplant. The material comes to us either through powder or it's frozen. So it's honestly not terrible to work with. But I am starting to desensitize them to the idea of live donors and fresh poop, because honestly, fresh poop works so much better than stored poop.
Here's the thing is that, okay, the powder material, that's not bad to work with, but you can see like the dust like kicks up and it gets everywhere, and that's fine. But it's not like gross to work with. Neither is the mash material. That's not gross.
But mash material, just fresh poop that's frozen.
But see, my brain doesn't see it like that. It just sees it as like slushy ice almost. And then when you thaw it, but it doesn't, it really doesn't gross me out. Now, when I pick up my dog's poop, that's a little different. It looks different. And it is a little bit different. So
when the fresh poop comes in, it's warm and
yes, I don't like that. It's a little weird, but I mean, I'm on board if you're on board, but
I just have to find a donor.
If you fix my dog's microbiome, you can have all her poop.
If you're listening and you have a very healthy dog that you believe a really good microbiome and you want to be a donor and help save lives, you can contact us, because I am looking for really good donors.
Really good poop.
And we can have a bank of different donors and their poop, and then we'll have to personality profile them.
Yeah.
So that
we're gonna need the water, metal, wood, earth, fire. We're gonna need
that's a great idea.
And then we're gonna have to link it.
So where are we gonna put this poop now?
We're gonna have to buy more shelves. You like
keeping poop in room temperature.
Buy another. You want to put another
unicorn space? I'll be like, here is our donor. How did this conversation morph to just poop talk? Poop talk. It's Lily and Mickey's poop talk.
Poop talk. It's a very important conversation to have, because I mean, when I first started, and I went home and I told my dad about fecal transplants, my dad was like, what?
What are you gonna?
What on earth are you talking about?
What are you gonna F-bomb?
Yeah.
Just now.
He's like, what the? He's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand any of this. And I didn't either, so it was really difficult to explain that to him. But then over time, my dad, when he's cleaning carpets, he's a carpet cleaner. He'll just listen to podcasts. So when I told him about the fecal transplants, he started just listening to podcasts about fecal transplants and holistic medicine and stuff. So he was really interested in it. And then when I would come home from work, he'd be like, I learned this new thing about fecal transplants. They're doing it in humans. They've done it in rats. Like that, he's going down the list of all the podcasts he's listened to. And then he started talking to my brother about it, and my brother got it instantly. He was like, that makes sense. And so it's weird how people take it and perceive it. I told Miss G about it for the first time, and she was like, what?
Why isn't that out there more? Because honestly,
because it's poop. Poop goes one
saves
place.
lives. I know, but I've seen
it now.
Yeah, you've seen how it helps.
But I feel like if I were to
be out there more,
if I were to go to a hospital, a human hospital, and say I want a
fecal transplant,
they'd look at me with crazy eyes.
If you are in a really good hospital and the doctors are well educated, they may be okay. Because honestly, let's do this right now, in front of a computer. I'm literally, and everyone can do this if you're in front of a computer, just go to Google. You're going to type fecal transplant. The first website I'm pulling up is from Johns Hopkins Medicine. And then Cleveland Clinic. Wikipedia. Ignore that one. American Society for Microbiology. Northwestern Medicine. I don't know what that is. Mount Sinai. But literally, try this for your own. I don't know if my browser's trained, but I remember when I put in fecal transplant for the first time, actually, I believe it was Harvard or Mayo Clinic. Those websites starts popping up. And it tells you something, right? If it is a modality that is so crazy and there's no scientific proof or evidence, I would not be able to pull up websites from all these very reputable human hospitals and medical research facilities. So it's out there. It's sad that it's not something that people have access to unless you're very sick. That's something I would like to see a little bit different, because like how we're doing it now for the pets, we use it as prevention. I test microbiome early. If it's off, we try to balance it out early so that they don't end up with diseases. Hopefully we're moving in a direction that we're not waiting till people are really sick to be able to offer them this kind of therapy. I wish it's more available, but we will get there.
We will.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mickie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fun. I wanted to just chat because it's always really interesting to find out from other people's perspective, especially people that wasn't really involved with holistic medicine to start with. And it's very interesting. So what's one advice you would give to people if they are just so skeptical about this whole idea, whether it's fecal transplant or acupuncture or anything else? If none of this sounds like it's real medicine.
I mean, as somebody who's obviously been very skeptical, just put a little bit of faith into it, because like Dr. Chen said, if it's not going to do any harm, what's the harm in trying? I think that's probably the most you can tell anybody, is just to put a little bit of faith into it, because you can show them all these, oh, look at this one. We fixed all these problems, but until they actually try it for themselves, they're not probably going to believe it. So just try. You try everything else. Just try this. It works, I promise.
Or come hang out with us for at least 3 weeks, because the first 2 weeks you're still going to be symptomatic. So the third week you may have a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to, and it takes a little while. Like we said earlier, it's not something that happens overnight. So just be patient. I mean, good things come to those who wait.
Yeah. Love that. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
It was fun.